part of being an administrator, part of being a superintendent is that you are in the position where you have to make some tough calls. And the tough call I had to make was, if we are going to have this policy, we have to follow it. And following it really meant that we had to make this decision. And what seems very clear on a paper, and when you're dealing with human beings and dealing with a human organization like a school and school districts, that's very complex. So we need to navigate that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my special guest today is Dan Keyser. Dan is the superintendent at Stoughton Area School District in Stoughton, Wisconsin. Dan, it is lovely to have you here.
Yeah, it's lovely to be on, and I'm very honored. Thank you.
Awesome. So tell everybody a little bit about Stoughton and being a superintendent. What's that been like for you?
Well, it's springtime, and we just had graduation this past Sunday, so it's a little less hectic because the seniors have all walked across the stage and have taken the next steps in their future lives. But we still have 11 more days with everyone else. So
yeah, and they're all bouncing, aren't they?
They're all bouncing. And Stoughton, Wisconsin is in south central Wisconsin. So the state capital of Madison is about 12 miles north of where we are.
Gotcha.
So we're south central Wisconsin. So we're dealing with all the air quality from the Canadian fires, and being a superintendent means that you are responsible for setting vision and direction for our 5 campuses. I have 5 directors that work directly with me at the district office, and we have a total of 14 administrators across the district, including building principals and assistant principals. Again, 5.
So how many? Yeah. How many students? I'm sorry.
2,700 students.
2,700. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
No, we have 3 elementary schools that are kindergarten through 5th grade, middle school 6, 8, and high school 9, 12. And all of our 4K is in the community. So we have community daycare providers that provide our 4K.
So when you say 4K, that is like preschool, like someone else said that, and I need clarification on what 4K means.
Basically, it's shorthand for 4-year-old kindergarten. It is
okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I would remember it as preschool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it was preschool for us. Yeah, and I don't even know that I went to preschool. So I remember my mom saying that the kindergarten teacher didn't think I was ready because I'm an October baby, and the cutoff was the 15th back then. No, that was in the 70s, early 70s. I'm dating myself. It's my 40th high school reunion this year, believe it or not. I can't when I say that, but there it is. My mom needed to go back to work, and I was the baby, so they put me in kindergarten, and I was 4. So I graduated at 17 and all of that stuff. But it's funny to think back, but then now they put kids in school at 4. So,
Yeah. Oh, and, I think with all that we're trying to educate students on, I definitely see a time where 4-year-old kindergarten will become a universality, kind of like kindergarten was, and then 3-year-old kindergarten will be just around the corner.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Just a different level. You're teaching at a different level for sure too. Yeah.
Absolutely. There are things that are happening in our middle schools that I remember, like, wait a minute, I was like a sophomore or junior when I was learning.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We are teaching them younger and younger. Some of it good, some of it not so good. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand that we talked a little bit before we went live or went on the recording was you stepped in some challenges. Let's hear about those and how you managed them.
Yes. So I'm closing out my 3rd year here as superintendent in the Stoughton Area School District. And when I walked in, we had some staffing challenges. We were projecting a budget deficit, and not going to go into the 4-hour lecture around Wisconsin State School public financing, but needless to say, it's all driven by student enrollment, and we've been a district of declining enrollment for about 21 years. So less students, less funding,
Money.
and so therefore we need to have enough staff to teach our kids, and also reduce that staff as our students decline. And we weren't doing that consistently. So my first year in, I had to put in a staffing plan that reduced 9 educators. We were doing a really good job. We had some good policies that predated me coming, but we weren't following them consistently. So part of being an administrator, part of being a superintendent, is that you are in the position where you have to make some tough calls. And the tough call I had to make was, if we are going to have this policy, we have to follow it. And following it really meant that we had to make this decision. And what seems very clear on paper, and when you're dealing with human beings and dealing with a human organization like a school and school districts, that's very complex. So we needed to navigate that. The board supported that plan, and we were able to we still needed to reduce some funding operationally, but then the following year the consumer index went through the roof. It was at 8%, the highest it's been in decades. That also foreshadowed some declines. We needed to pay our staff, provide some increases. We weren't able to give all the increases that we wanted to. And again, decline enrollment, we were projecting that we were going to have fewer students moving forward. We did go to our community and ask for a referendum to add more funds to our budget moving forward, and the community supported that. Our community is super supportive of our school district. And that passed, and yet we still needed to make reductions because of declining enrollment. So you can imagine the dynamic. We had, on one side, people saying, we just gave you all, this money, we should be reducing any staff. And over here, it's like, well, we have these policies that say, if you have X number of kids, you get X number of staff, and we should be following that. And so that dynamic, again, the first time was one thing. We weren't following it. Now we're following it, and we still need to make reductions. And yet the community supported increased funding for our school district. So it really was a case study in the human condition and really being able to communicate on multiple levels. Our frontline classroom teachers, aides, secretaries, principals, custodian, bus drivers, all of them, our building administrators, our school board, and the community. We needed to communicate at all of those levels, and each one needed different levels of communication while delivering the exact same message.
Yeah. Yeah. What you're going to say to your staff is not what you're going to say to the board or to parents, right? Yeah.
And they're all comparing notes.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. In this digital world that we live in, everything you say is being transmitted to multiple people.
Yep.
And
yes, it is. Yes, it is. And what do? It's like you have to do what you have to do. I mean, that's why you're in that position. So how'd it go?
So the first year I was brand new. The board supported a very tough decision in reducing nine educators, what we call 9 FTE. The last year, they supported all but one of the staffing plan recommendations. We were recommending reducing an orchestra teacher, and the narrative around that was that I was trying to get rid of orchestra,
cut the program,
and that wasn't the case. We had enough students at the middle school and the high school, and we had an orchestra teacher at the middle school and an orchestra teacher at the high school. And with the reduction of kids taking orchestra, we only needed one educator. And to add to that, one of the 2 educator positions was vacant because the person had left early in the year. So we weren't even the proposal.
You just weren't going to replace that person, right?
Just
Yeah.
weren't gonna replace that.
Yeah.
But the narrative got away from me. And so the board voted to approve the plan minus the orchestra position. They preserved the orchestra position. We filled that in there. What that caused me to do with my team was to really go into a lot of reflection and decide to analyze, like, how do we communicate? What do we communicate? And what was the cadence of that? And what we ended up doing was we didn't change how we communicated. We just changed in what order we communicated. Where we used to communicate to the board and then to our principals and then to our staff and then to the community, we decided to reverse that and start with our staff, our principals, our board, and our community last. And this year we had a very similar staffing recommendation to the one I was just describing. We had to reduce one of a position in world language, but with this new model. And we actually had a couple of people reach out and ask clarifying questions, but by and large, we had a really good year this year around staffing. So, sometimes you have the right pieces, they're just not in the right order. And I would say it took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of being able to put our own ideas and our own beliefs on the side and really just kind of look at it as kind of a puzzle. Like, these are pieces. What if we rearrange the pieces, and how do we do that? And we decided that we really didn't need to change what we needed to communicate. We just need to change the manner in the order of how we communicate it. And it worked this year. So we have a size of one in the science world, right? Yeah. We have it. We've tried it once and it worked. So we're going to try this again moving forward, and we're going to see how it goes moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. As a speech therapist, it's like, it's all about presentation and how you do it. And I'll tell you, my director of marketing and my director of sales have taught me so much about how you present things to people and the empathy and all of that as well, because it's just really important that nobody, you don't want, I could just, when you're talking about cutting all these positions, I can see people with pitchforks coming after you going, because they're mad, because they don't want that for their people. And, people, especially when people don't see the entire picture, they only hear the snippet. People are really quick to read the headline, but digging into what's really happening in the news is not what people generally do. And many people don't even get their news from reading. It's more, what did I saw it on the internet, I saw it on TikTok, I saw it on social media, and oh my goodness, and you only get half the story. And then it's, it can be really tough.
It can be tough. And I will say, being able to sometimes be the active listener. And we as a school district adopted 3 goals. We have a literacy goal, a math goal, and then our third goal is around belonging. And really our belief around that is that in order to achieve our first 2 goals around academics, we believe strongly that our students and our staff have to be able to bring their authentic selves into the space. We have to create a space where people can feel seen, heard, and valued. And that transcends academics. That's all about what I was just describing with dealing with our challenges around staffing. 2,700 students, 250 educators, just under 450 total staff inclusive. That seems like a very big organization, but as a state, we're kind of right at the 50th percentile of our 425 school districts. So half of the school districts are larger than us, and the other half are smaller. So from that perspective, we're small enough to be nimble. We're large enough that we need to have some systems and structures in place so that we can communicate, or that we can operate effectively. But what we can't lose sight of is that all of this is people,
right?
And people bring different points of view. And I think the more that we can suspend our our viewpoints, to hear what the other person's perspective is, and try to see it from through their eyes and from that frame of reference. I think we've lost that art.
Yeah.
As a society. And so I think that my view, what I try to advocate for my directors, my principals, and all of that is we really need to do a good job of listening, good job of asking questions so that we can get a clear picture of how the individual is seeing it, and then having a conversation about the facts. I forget who said it. People are entitled to their own opinion, but no one's entitled to their own facts.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Truth is truth, right? Yeah, and that's what society would not want me to say, is that everybody's got their own truth. That's not the reality of the world that we live in. And, it's like you just can't go from that perspective. And it's interesting that so many people they truly, honestly believe that their truth is the only. No one thinks they're wrong. It's like I had a pastor one time who told me that. He's like, he was talking about truth and about how people react to different things, and it was like something like 95% of people. I don't remember the exact percent, but it was really high. People that think that they're always right. No one actually believes that they're wrong. And it's like, and yet 40% are right. Usually only about 40% of people are right when they're on a particular topic where there is a truth. And it's like, oh, that means I'm wrong some of the time. Sometimes I took that one. I was like, wow. Because I'm as guilty as anybody else, right?
Oh, so am I. When I was in the classroom teaching science and math, I would tell kids all the time, I'm like, if I get one light bulb to turn on, that's all I need to get excited for the next year. I am wrong more times than I am right. Yeah. And that I think is that is something that I really resonate with, is that many times we can state our opinions, but sometimes what we lose is the facts in the equation, and being able to say, like, the sun's the sun. Yeah. That thing that's causing me to start to sweat outside is a real thing, and that's the truth, right?
Yeah.
So now let's figure out all the other things. Is it a hat? Is it sunscreen? Is it?
Yeah. What are you going to do to prevent that awful outcome if you don't do something about the sun, right? Yeah. And certainly, having to let staff go is a piece of that. I mean, it's a huge piece of it, and it's a hard piece. And sometimes it's definitely not always black and white, but you have to do what's best for the job that you've been given. And it sounds like you have. So good for you. Good for you for sticking to your guns, but recognizing too that it's going to hurt somebody. It's going to be a part of that is going to be, there's no getting around it. One of the hardest things for me as well in my position is when I have to let somebody go. Fortunately, I don't have to do it very often, but when you do, you just have to. And you don't do it because you want to harm somebody. You do it because you look at the facts again and the greater good of what you're doing. And that's what you have to go there, and getting everybody to understand that is not always easy, for sure.
Not always easy. And I often, someone once said this to me. It's like, how you say goodbye to someone is as important, if not more important, than how you bring them on board, right? Mm-hmm. So you said it best. We can all look at it and say, there's a reduction, and you can absolutely empathize with the person. This is terrible. I do not want to be doing this, and you certainly don't want to have it done. But let's figure out how do we do this in a manner that honors you as an individual, and to what degree we can find a spot for you, even if it's not in the district anymore. Maybe it's in another district.
Yeah.
I want to see you succeed. I have a vested interest in your success, even if that success
is elsewhere,
another school district,
yep.
Right? We hired you. We saw the good in you, and we also can't keep you in this role. So either we find you a new role, or we find you hopefully a spot in another district where you can continue to do great things for students moving forward, because they're all our children. They're all our students.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. And they're the bottom line. The kids are the bottom line. Why do we do what we do, right? Because of the
They are
students
what
that are there.
Without students, none of us
Would have it.
conversation.
Yeah, this would be a moot point if there weren't any kids, right? Yeah. So, and that's yeah. When you work in education, if you are doing your job and you're doing it well, you always turn back to what are we doing for the kids? What's going to make it so that they can have the things that they need and they can have quality educators, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
That's why I'm so lucky to be in Stoughton with. We have great leaders. We've got great staff. And as I tell people who visit our schools, sometimes you have to look down on your way out the door because you'll have kids clinging to you because they just love everyone who walks in.
Yeah. One time I don't remember where I was now. I think I might have been at a library or something, and I sat down amongst the kids, and they were littles, 3 and 4 year olds. Maybe it was when I was student teaching. I immediately had 4 kids on my lap. I just sat down with them, and it was like immediately I was like, because kids are, they're starved for attention too, and it's just like you sit down among them and they're soaking it up. So love kids, absolutely love kids. They're just, the mother and my kids are all grown, so it's nice to be able to serve other people's kids and serve them well, for sure. So, okay. One last question, and you cannot say money. When you answer this question, you cannot bring it back to money because everybody needs more money. But if you could miraculously solve one challenge in your school beyond the staffing, because we've kind of done all of the staffing, we talked about that piece of it, but what would you want to solve? Like if you could just go, this problem is gone in my world, what would that problem be?
Oh, that's a great question. I think if I could have one problem solved that would dramatically increase the outcomes for our students, I would say it is the ability to eliminate the fear of difficult conversations. Eliminate the fear of having difficult conversations. And I'm as guilty of that as that,
nobody wants to do
the
that.
anticipation of having a difficult conversation is probably the most paralyzing feeling one can have. If I could remove that and we could just have honest conversations in the moment, around students and student outcomes and
that'd be it. That's a good one.
Increase the outcomes for our students on all 3 scales: literacy, mathematics, and belonging.
Right. Yeah. And that belonging piece is so important too. It's like getting kids ready to be able to learn is making sure that all of those foundational things are there. So I'm glad you have that piece. Well, I'll tell you, Dan, this has been a great conversation. I applaud you for being that person that makes those hard decisions, but does it with empathy and with compassion. There are certainly people that are just knife people. They just go and cut the fat and then we're done, and you have done it with grace. So kudos to you and your team.
It's a team effort. So I appreciate it. And I will pass that along to the team who serves students every day. So where then should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you and your school? So the Stoughton area school district, if they just actually, fun fact, there are only 2 Stoughtons in the United States: Stoughton, Massachusetts, and Stoughton, Wisconsin. Stoughton area school district is stoughton.k12.wi.us. That's our website. They can see information about the school district, our enrollments, all the things that are going on. And then our handles are We Are Stoughton on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of that. And I'm going to spell that Stoughton.
Correct. Right? Stoughton. Great. Awesome. thanks again, Dan. And it's June 4th, but this is going to be out probably not until August. So have a great summer. And hopefully before school starts again, you'll be able to hear it and see it. We're busy. We've had some great conversations, and this has definitely been one of them. So thanks again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.